A crowd of young people, university students, she guessed, suddenly came charging down the steps towards her. She moved to her right, flattening herself against the wall. Her breath was coming in short, urgent gasps, her heart racing furiously. And she knew it wasn't due to the exertion of climbing the stairs. It was because of what had happened here 50 years ago. The night that changed her life forever. Clutching her suitcase with one hand and her chest with the other, she cowered against the wall, fighting to regain control, struggling to catch her breath. "Don't fall," she whispered. Part 1. Autumn to Winter, 1942. Chapter 1. It was a bright Saturday in September, but felt as though it was still summer. Nellie had had a busy week at work at the town hall, where she was assistant to the mayor. And today she longed for a bit of normality, a little taste of how life used to be before the war, before the air raids and the rationing, and the endless somber news reports on the wireless radio. She was taking her little sister, Flo, for a picnic in the park. It was hot, the kind of heat that makes you yearn for the weather to cool down and the leaves to fall. But then you berated yourself for wishing away the good weather. The autumn chill would come soon enough, Nellie told herself, and with it the dark days of winter when she'd be returning home from work after dark, stumbling along in the blackout, every yard treacherous. "Come on, Flo, let's get a move on. More time for our picnic," she said, tugging her sister by the hand. They walked through the familiar streets of Bethnal Green, where she'd always lived, passing a row of shops with their meagre window displays. Second-hand clothes, rabbit and mutton in the butcher's. It had been so long since she'd had beef. A queue, still, at the greengrocer's for apples from the orchards of Kent. On one corner stood the remains of a side wall of a bombed-out house. A curtain still flapping forlornly in its window. She averted her eyes from the bomb sites, the hollowed-out shells that had once been people's homes, houses just like her own. She didn't want to risk spoiling her happy mood thinking about them now. "When will they rebuild it? When can the people have their house back?" Flo asked, looking up at it. "After the war's over, I expect." Nellie sighed, adjusting the basket hanging from her arm. But the people who lived there were unlikely to ever come home, she thought. For all she knew, they might have perished inside when their house took a direct hit. What if the war goes on forever and ever? Lately, the headlines screamed about Royal Air Force bombing raids on Munich, and Nellie felt her stomach lurch thinking about it. Whenever the British had successfully bombed a German city, you could be sure there'd be a retaliatory strike coming soon after. And that usually meant London would be hit, which meant the East End of London would be once more in danger. Her little sister, only 7 years old, could barely remember a time before the war began, and it showed no signs of ending any time soon. As much as the war had marred Flo's childhood, it had robbed Nellie of her teenage years, when she should have been having fun without a care in the world. Although it wasn't as bad these days as it was in the beginning, when the docks and warehouses were targeted, and then during the Blitz when Hitler had sent his bombers over built-up areas trying to break the British spirit. It hadn't worked. They were still here, still fighting, and would never surrender, as the Prime Minister had said near the start of the war. Never surrender. Nellie jutted out her chin defiantly as she remembered Mr. Churchill's speech. "It won't go on forever, I promise. Look, we're almost here." Nellie smiled, eager to cheer her sister up as she led them across the bridge over the Regent's Canal and into Victoria Park, past the statues of the 2 dogs that guarded the entrance. Flo, as always, gave each dog a pat as she passed. These days, with Victoria Park mostly taken over by the military, anti-aircraft guns on part of it, and a prisoner of war camp at the far end, there were a few places where one could feel truly free. Still.